Morning, everybody. Just quick, by show of hands, how many of you are the owner of your business? Very good. How many of you have a leadership role in your business? Okay, that should be everybody, actually. How many of you in the last year have experienced some frustration at some level with your business? For the rest of you, maybe I should switch spots real quick, because maybe you should be up here. Being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner is a challenge. Day in and day out. I was talking to Raymond, which we appreciate Raymond's building that he put up here that we get to use, and he says, hey, there are technical things that might come up, and I said, adapt and overcome. That's what small business owners do every single day. We just adapt and we overcome the challenges that are placed in front of us. So I want to place a challenge in front of you this morning. These are size 12s, so if you have a size 12 or smaller, you can participate in this challenge. I would like to place $100 right here. And this is an honest and open challenge. Anybody who can come up here, put on the boots, and pick yourself up off the ground by them, that $100 is yours. Any takers? Come on, we're small business people. This is $100. We've sold people down the road for less than this. Anybody? Well, then why not? Why not? Why won't you take this challenge? It's impossible. Do you agree? Do you guys agree that it's impossible? Not impossible? Okay. I mean, I very welcome anybody who wants to come up and reach down and pick yourself up off the ground to a higher level just by pulling on the bootstraps. Shoot. Still don't have any takers on this. I've been trying for 2 years to get somebody to come up on stage and actually pull themselves up, if nothing else, for me to get a good laugh at. Everybody else. The phrase, picking yourself up by your own bootstraps. Have you guys heard that phrase before? Yeah. It actually is from a part of an old phrase that came around in World War I, World War II, that said, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and throw yourself over the fence. It was meant to imply exactly what was said, something that was impossible. It is physically impossible for you to pick yourself up by pulling on your shoes or on your boots. Why? Because you lack a point of leverage in order to pick things up. When you pick things up normally, your whole body is leveraging yourself. But when you go to try and pick yourself up on your own energy, the interesting thing that happens is you actually get smaller. Instead of going higher, instead of saying, I did this all myself and I picked myself up by my bootstraps, instead of getting higher, elevating yourself and your business and your family and your church and your organizations that you're a part of, you actually start to compress yourself. The harder you pull, the smaller you get. You become less. But here's the thing. You feel like you're doing a whole heck of a lot of work. Is anybody familiar with that? Feeling like you're doing a whole lot of work and it's really not going anywhere? I've been there. I've been there many times because I believed for a long time, if I'm going to get someplace, it's going to be because of me. I'm going to pick myself up by my bootstraps. I am going to put forward all the effort, and I'm going to lift myself and my business up to the next level. There's a reason I took 3 weeks off. After 8 years of doing it, I was starting to break. You can only strain so long in that position before things start to cramp up. Things start to crack, you get upset, tired, and tired, and tired. It's a self-replicating cycle. I firmly believe, and I don't have time this morning to go through this, I've been working on something for the last couple of years. I firmly believe in two things about small businesses and the things that we create in the world. We create to live alongside the things that we have created, not to live for them. Let me say that again. We create to live alongside the thing we've created, not live for it. What happens too many times as small business owners and leaders inside of our small business is this. How many of you are parents? Real quick. How many of you love those kids, don't you? Love them until they don't, and then you're like, hey, I'm going to put you in the closet for a little while. But no, you love your kids. And early on, Nick, where you at, Nick? How much sleep are you getting right now? You just had a newborn. More than his wife. Not as much as you used to. You know newborns, they take. They just take. And I mean, they give the cute faces and the googles, and they make you feel warm, and they're contagious, and everybody who holds one wants one until they realize they have to stay up late at night with them. They take and take and take. And as your children get older, they take less, and they start to live alongside you. And this healthy separation and healthy parenting is building a structure in which they can thrive that is not required for you to be there every time going, get in the shower, turn on the water, lather up with soap, wash yourself with the soap, rinse yourself off, turn off the water, get out of the shower, dry yourself off, put on your PJs. You don't want to do that to an 18-year-old if you don't have to. It's healthy parenting for them to grow up alongside of us. But so many of us lose sight of that in the businesses that we are creating and innovating in and constantly recreating, is that we open up a vein, we hook up an IV to it, and then we feed it into that business. And it gets all of our energy. It gets all of our time. It takes from us, even when it grows. We just keep that thing plugged right into our arm. And unlike parenting, that they grow up alongside of us and we live alongside of them, we live for our businesses. How many of you know a business that if the man or woman at the head of it was gone, the business would be gone? That is where you are living for your business, not alongside of it. When your business is so contingent upon your life to move forward, you believe that you can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You believe that you can do this and that you are enough. And I believe that. I wholeheartedly bought into it. 70, 80-hour weeks. I vividly remember practicing law and trying to run a legal practice that was doubling in size every year for the first 3 years. I went to law school. Nobody taught me to do math. And Irene's around here someplace, my CFO, probably saying, yes, he doesn't know how to do math. Because she had to come in and help me, and I'll get to that point here in a second. The myth of bootstrapping derails the creative process, and whether that's an entity that you've created, whether it's a team, a part of a team that you're in charge of creating inside of an entity, the myth of bootstrapping derails it, it hijacks it. And it tells you, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it by yourself, and you're going to pick yourself up. And what happens is it puts your process on life support. And when you remove yourself, it dies. And we've seen these things happen. We've seen businesses die because the man or woman who was the head of them all of a sudden went, and it ran out of energy. It ran out of life for sustaining it, and it collapses in on itself. In fact, there's a great celestial example of this. We create to live alongside something that's supposed to not take from us but give us life. There are two polar opposites in the universe that do the same thing. One is a sun. A sun is a complex system of gravities and pressures pulling and pushing against each other, creating fusion and creating life across millions and millions of miles in a universe. Each sun lives on its own, generates energy on its own, and gives life to things around it. Black holes, which, how many of you saw that picture on the right? I loved it when that picture came out a couple weeks ago. That's the first picture of a black hole ever captured through the algorithms that they used. Black holes are the opposite. Black holes do not create life. Black holes suck it away. It's the universal shredder. It takes everything and turns it into little tiny thin lines of plasma and shreds it apart and eats it. Now, how many of you in your small business from time to time have felt like it's been eating you little by little, turning you into little pieces of plasma, taking from you? I've been there. I've felt that feeling. Too little butter spread over too much toast. That's a horrible piece of toast, by the way. Pulled thin. Black holes collapse, and the gravity of what they are pulls everything into it and collapses on itself, and it sucks life out of the universe around it. When you believe in your mind, if I just pull hard enough, if I do more, if I work harder, if I add hours, if I just do more, I'll be successful. You're not giving life to people around you. In fact, the people around you start to look a little bit like maybe they have their own agendas. They're just here for a paycheck. Nobody gets this. Nobody really believes in what's going on here. I'm the only one moving this thing forward. Why does that happen? Because you're only seeing yourself. You're only collapsing it on under yourself. You're only placing yourself under that strain. And that's the crazy thing as small business owners. We create our own strain when we believe that we have to do it by ourselves. And you can pull, and some people could be even marginally successful. We can look around and say, oh, well, he's doing it. He's doing it within the limits of himself, because like a black hole will actually continue to shrink over time until it disappears. A small business owner who believes that they can pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and have to do it by themselves will slowly collapse over time, taking life with them. I was talking to my sitter. I picked her up this morning to bring her over to watch our youngest this morning. And she's like, what are you going to talk about today? And I told her about it, and she says, that was my dad. She said, he killed himself day in, day out. She says, I think my brothers learned from it, I think. But she says, he killed himself. And then I asked her a question. I said, for all that effort, what did he generate? She said, well, he did take care of what was, but he had nothing to pass on. And that's the second part of bootstrapping that takes from us. It takes from us the legacy of what we are creating. It takes from us the future for our family. Let me talk about lawyers for a second, because everybody wants to hear about lawyers, right? It's 8:45 and 9:15 in the morning. We want to talk about lawyers, right? There are a lot of solo practitioners in the market that we serve. They do a lot of great work for the families of those communities. And they create value in what they do. But we are seeing a number of those solo practitioners retire, or worst case, die in place. What happens to the value they were creating when they die? It's gone. They have nothing to pass on for their community. Their community ceases to receive value from them at the moment of their death. There's a difference between creating value and being valuable. Being valuable to your community means this. It's not incumbent upon you to be there for it to still keep going. It will continue to move forward and do good in the world without you there. You can do value. You can have value. You have a tremendous amount of value to your clients and your community. Putting yourself under the strain, you can create value. But you cannot create something valuable. I've seen a couple of different businesses attempt to sell themselves. Selling a business is one way to transition out of it. Ken's going to talk a little bit later about succession planning. Selling a business is one way to succession plan for your business and the success of your business. But when it came right down to it, when the man in charge of it wasn't part of the sale, the business wasn't really worth much. It wasn't valuable because it was so tied up with the person that was doing it. The myth of bootstrapping restricts your ability. It makes you smaller and less. It takes life, and it robs the long-term value of your business from the community and from your family. It's a pernicious myth. It's invasive. It kind of gets inside your head because it feels like you're really doing good work. Because boy, are you straining. You're working 70-hour weeks. You're putting in the time. But the problem is, it's in the wrong direction. Jordan, are we queued up with sound for this? Okay. I want to show you guys a quick video of some way of focusing energy that is not straining, but is being smart.
Everybody knows about playing with dominoes, but what you may not know is that a domino can knock over another domino which is about 1.5 times larger. So what I have here is a chain of dominoes. Each one is 1.5 times larger than the previous one. And the smallest domino is about 5 millimeters high and 1 millimeter thick. And I will carefully place it. And there are 13 dominoes. And the largest domino, it weighs about 100 pounds and is more than 1 meter tall. Ready? Boom. That was 13 dominoes. If I had 29 dominoes, the last domino would be as tall as the Empire State Building.
I love that face at the end. He knew he just proved a point, and I own it. Own that point. How much energy do you think it took to push that first domino over? You could probably sneezed on it. Less than that to knock over that domino. We need to fix some head trash. That strenuous effort is not the medal of valor for a small business saying, I put in 70 hours a week, I'm doing it. If your mentality is it's all on you, then you're putting 70 hours a week in pulling yourself, trying to lift yourself up. Instead, we need to fix the head trash to say, it isn't how hard I have to pull, it's where I can push with the least amount of energy to create the greatest return on that investment of energy. You guys familiar with the ROIs, return on investment? Probably think about it in your business. Where do I invest? How can I get as much money back? How often do you think about it with your own energy? With where you are pushing, where you are contributing. Dan said about my trip that I took in October. That trip was the culmination of about 5 years of journey. I remember very vividly sitting in the top floor of our law office after a full day of practice, after carrying 150 clients by myself that day and taking care of them, and sitting up there in front of my computer with bills, payroll, and I don't know what was here, but it was something else, and thinking, I hate this. I hate this. And moreover, I was in that position where, if you've ever been there, I'm going to choose to pay this bill this month and push this one off. That's a horrible feeling, isn't it? You ever been in that place where you have to choose which one you're going to pay and which one's going to wait? I hated it. I hated doing it. It was taking life from me. It was taking and not giving anything in return. I'm a fairly smart guy, but it still took a long time for that to sink in. Maybe that's not the way it has to be. It set me on a journey of building a team around myself, of people that are, quite honestly, better than me and where they are great. I have a very narrow skill set that I'm amazing in. There's a whole lot of other things that I'm really mediocre at. I can do them. Bear in mind, I can do them. But it's also not illegal to perform my own surgeries. It's just not advised, necessarily, that I should be performing my own surgeries. I can do these things. I am capable, but I am not competent. I was not creating something valuable. There was value being derived from it, but I was not creating something valuable at that moment. And so I created a team. I hired people in, and that team is here with me today. My wife, who does HR, Irene, who's just somewhere around here, who does my finances and financial protections, Erica, who does all of our systems, Jordan, which many of you were in touch with on the way in here, who does all our PR and marketing, Ken, who does our local practice in Holmes County, Kate, who does it on the practice east of Interstate 77, Mariah, who's brand new and going to be looking westward for where we're going, Tina, who answers the phones, Diane, who controls Tom, my father, because somebody needs to ring him in. I created a team over the last 5 years. And here was the problem, though. Last September, I was still doing this. They were better. Get this right. They were better at running that law firm than I ever was. So much better. And yet, what was I doing? I got to get my fingers in all of this stuff still. I got to do this. I've still got to do this. And eventually, they said, get out of the way. So I did. I left for a month, 3 weeks of which I was traveling by myself out west. Not the smartest idea, hiking at 10,000 feet by yourself, but hey, I've got good insurance. I came back to find a team that was running the practice and practicing law better than we ever had before, and we've been on a 5-month run of record-setting months, simply because I got out of the way. I stopped trying to pull myself up by the bootstraps. I stopped trying to say, if I just do this by myself. And now their biggest thing is, my team looks at me and they say, well, since you're only good at this, I know, we're going to design a job that's around this. And that's what I do. I'm doing that because the challenge is not pull harder, it's push smarter. Find the place where you can push and create the greatest return on your investment. And whether you are a small business owner, whether you're part of the team of the small business and you're here because your owner and leader has entrusted you to learn something from it, it's all the same place in the creative process. Building a team around you that honestly at the end of the day makes you obsolete. At that point in time, you've created a valuable business and you've become invaluable to your employer if you're in that position. Because you built that thing. And you have the people that have come alongside you who are better at everything else than you ever were. But we got to clear out that head trash first. And that's today. You guys are here because you said, hey, I'm going to take some time to work on my business and not in my business. And today, we hope that you walk out of here today having some head trash shuffled around and maybe blown out, having some practical advice that you can take back to your business, that you can take back to your team and say, yeah, I want to run with this. I want to champion this. And I also want to stand up and stop trying to pull on this all by myself and figure out where I need to push to get the greatest return on the investment for my time and energy. So my hope for you guys today at our 7th small business conference, it still blows my mind, 7 of these that we've done, is that you can walk out of here today with at least one thing that either gets rid of some head trash or gives you a tool that you can walk back and implement with. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Dan here, and he's going to tell you what's going on next. Anybody? All right. Thanks, guys.